to myself again.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It's Friday night, which means it's the Fab Four. I'm joined by Keith, Steve and Mitch as we look back on the last 7 days at Newcastle United and probably on the last 24 hours and what has developed. It's never short of a multitude of stories tend to break on either a Tuesday or a Friday. And once again, Steve Bruce's press conference alone, we could talk about that. But the injuries, I think that's probably the thing that people will want to talk about. And I'm sure the lads have got plenty of stuff to share. Only 90 minutes tonight because I've got to get off to Durham to go and do my very last pro boxing show as a promoter, and I've got to cram some tea in at some point as well, so I won't eat live on air. I'll leave it in the capable hands of the lads while I have 5 minutes off. But lads, where do we start? Well, I think we'll start to be honest with a question straight in from Craig. Was it Craig or yes, it was Craig. Keith, you keep hinting about a new buyer emerging. How true is that? And is Ashley still wanting to sell?
Two questions there. Ashley definitely wants to sell. I've got no doubts at all he wants to sell. And when I say I keep hinting about new buyer, I think I've been seeing all kinds on Twitter this week that I've supposed to said and I've said. Let's be dead clear. I think that PIF's still around. We know they are. And you hear all kinds of rumours of who could be teaming up with them and who might not be teaming up with them. And at the end of the day, it's taken a real confidential turn where everybody now is being really, really cautious because I think it's dragged on that long. And the information I've had from several sources, which I think is reliable, is that the club will be sold in the near future. I don't think, Mike Ashley will own the club at Christmas if these people be believed. And these are people with highly connected. So that's my feeling. I'm a fan like all you lot. I want to take over, but I want it to the right people. I think what I've been trying to say to you on Twitter is be careful what you wish for, because if you get a buyer who remortgages in the American model, like the Glazers are, and like when I was talking to John Texter, the way he was talking about how he would have proposed to do Newcastle, and he was a cracking fella. I mean, I thought he was a lovely bloke, really got on with him, but he made no bones of the fact that he would raise the money on the New York Stock Exchange. And for me, that's the wrong model for Newcastle. I've taught that through people like Steve Hasty and Liam, and they said, that's not what we want to see for the club. There's some people just want him out, whoever buys it, but I don't want to see a takeover happen where, we end up like Southampton or Burnley. And the message I get is Southampton in a right old state and Burnley are 90 million worse off. So having waited a couple of years and gone through the purgatory we have, I would like to think that we do get the buyer we deserve. The dream for all of us has always been consortium takeover with PIF involvement. The rumours you hear at the moment, which with grow every day, every week, is that PIF might be involved with another partner now. There's Indian connections. You can see stuff that's circulated on Twitter at board level. There's those people are involved and they're around, and I think they'll be around Newcastle in the coming days and weeks. So it sounds from talking to people with connections that there's a bit of a race on. It's a case of who's going to get the club, and I think Mike Ashley is definitely a willing seller, which is the last part of your question. But I think he's a more urgent seller than what he's been in the past. We all know why he would like to deal with PIF to get the Middle Eastern rights for his sports goods, but he might be at the point where he thinks that the Premier League won't entertain that. And so I'm like all of you. I want to take over that's been worth waiting for. I don't want to remortgage. I don't want somebody coming into Newcastle that's got less money than Mike Ashley because he was honest enough to say that he hasn't got enough to compete. I want somebody that's big. So I haven't changed my tack on that. I'm concerned that we get the wrong buyer, but the right buyers are still there, and the right buyers are still around the club. If there's a dream ticket, still could happen, and it's still real, and people are still saying that that's possible. But equally, other people that's trying to compete to buy the club are confident enough to say that if they don't get it, it will be sold soon. So that's the take, and there's nothing else to it.
Yeah. Okay, Steve. What's your your views on all this latest stuff that seems to be circulating about the takeover? I'll give you my viewpoint. I just think I just think it's a lot of tittle tattle, going backwards and forwards, and I just think it's very unhelpful, especially when the football on the pitch is as bad as it's as bad as it is. I think it's an unwelcome distraction. But what's your take?
Certainly another distraction, Steve. If we're not full of distractions, well, I've been for 14 years now with Mike Ashley. For me, 29th of September, there's the key date. We find out what's going on with the cat case, where it stands with the Premier League, and where it stands with Mike Ashley, where it stands with the legal team. Once that's out of the way, I think then we'll probably see some movement one way or the other. I think that's, if anything, that's the point where if things don't go right for Mike Ashley and for the football club, in terms of who he wants to sell to, then I think that's when the alternatives start to arise. But until then, that's for me, it's chaff, it's speculation, it's hype, it's people joining Liam's dots that aren't actually there at the moment because there's nothing else to talk about, and we don't really want to talk about Ronaldo playing against us on Saturday.
Yeah, it just seems to be dragging on, Steve. This and it's a distraction which is just doing people's heads in. And I mean, Twitter is a poisonous place at the best of times. And again, I just saw it kickstart again this week. I mean, I get a lot of people notifying me of this person said that about you, this person said that. These people are blocked. I never see this. I do live in an echo chamber, and I'm quite happy to live in there where people are just talking about positivity, and that's the best way to be. But it's. Look, I think you're right. The 29th of September, that is the next benchmark for us. You know what I mean? And I think, if that doesn't go according to, the way that we all hoped it was going to go, i.e., that the CAT case goes before arbitration, I think we'll probably hear from PIF, via PCP, and I think it'll all be off. That's still my philosophy. Different to Keith's, I know, but that's what I'm hearing anyway, And despite murmurings of positivity from other parts of the financial world or the football world.
Yeah, and I thank God I'm in the same echo chamber as you at the moment, Steve, quite frankly. But no, you're right. I mean, everything I'm seeing or everything I'm hearing and messages that I'm getting, I'm just taking purely as speculative rumour because I've not heard anything substantive. I've not seen anything substantive. I've not come across anything in a conversation. I suppose the only conversation that I would consider worthy of chatting about would be the conversation I had with Mitch, where somebody that we know very much, know very well, is very much in the camp of there's something happening, but I don't know what it is, so that's where I'm sitting. Yeah.
Mitch, what about you? I mean, you often get different gossip to us in your part of the world. What's your take on all of this?
And the interesting thing is I'm getting so many mixed messages at the minute. It's ridiculous. My WhatsApp this week in particular has been, it's gone from joining the dots to doing a 2,000-piece jigsaw, and trying to work out. The only thing that heartens us is that if things are progressing well on certain fronts, people have finally learned to shut their mouths and not let things come out. I think this is very much the message we got from, as Steve says, somebody we know very well who's exceptionally well connected in the world of football takeovers, and the best he can come out with is there's something happening, but I really don't know what it is, and I can't get it out of anybody, which I find fascinating. I mean, I've not vocalised these thoughts with you guys of late, but as each day passes, I'm increasingly of the opinion, as a club and as a fan base, we've got to a point where we just need change. Yes, a leveraged buyout is not what I would want. Yes, a mortgage buyout is not what I would want. But we're at a point where there's so much inaction, and we're so static, and that in turn is driving so much of the angst that any change is necessary for me now, and we'll deal with what we're dealing with after that. And if it's a leverage buyout with a buyer who's prepared to interact and listen and do the right things, then maybe we can work with that. And I'm personally would be prepared to square that circle if it just means we get the change that I feel everybody to a man and woman in the fan base needs. And that's my frustration at the moment. I would love it to be the right people. Love it. Absolutely love it to be, you know, the money's only going to come from 3 or 4 sources now. You know, an oligarch, a nation sovereign fund, a big petrochemical company owned by an oligarch, or the New York Stock Exchange. That's it for me. There's only 4 places that kind of money can come from. But it changes the aspect of the whole arbitration in cat cases if another buyer was to pop up or a different buyer was to come in. But really, I'm genuinely of that opinion that any change in some respects is good change.
Yeah, I would agree. The best news I've seen in the chat so far is that Rachel is getting ready to get picked up from hospital, which has been a source of concern, I think, for everybody. But Rachel, great news. Glad that you've got off the oxygen and you're on your way back. Hope that chest infection clears up, but that is good news. Steve Bruce had his press conference today, Keith, and we were all waiting with bated breath. I watched Lee Riders, and he does a bit down camera on the Chronicle. Obviously, I don't tend to go to the Chronicle for my Newcastle stuff, but I was interested to hear what Lee had to say on it. And the message was quite loud and clear that you know, Bruce just wants to move on. He didn't really want to answer the question. He got a bit aerated with those who asked him the question with regards to the statement that was put out this time last week. But he was, it was a strange press conference, and I just want your take on what he said about that. You know, it's clear that he's been mugged off. He's been let down by Mike Ashley, which we all knew would happen, because it doesn't matter whether you kiss Mike Ashley's backside or you slate him like Rafa did. You only ever get one thing, and that's what Mike Ashley wants.
I mean, Bruce's body language was of a man who was frustrated. But I tend to look at the whole picture, and I think he's got the same team as he finished with last year. He's got Willock, and I agree with him that some loan signings would have made a lot of sense, which is what he said. And he looked like a bloke that hadn't got what he wanted, which it looked as though he was contradicting with the club statement that came out. The club statement said that everybody knew what the agreement was, and as though everybody's in full agreement. Bruce's body language was he wasn't agreeing with that, because he said he was disappointed. And then he said, "But it is what it is." But then they said to him, "Will you embellish on that? Will you tell us what the agreement was?" He said, "Well, you know what it was," and he wanted to just push it away. But what does he do? He's got to make a decision: do I stay or do I walk? And if he decides to stay, then they might as well move on with it, because he's not going to change it. I mean, the window's shut, so talking about it isn't going to improve anything at all. But what's clear is he thought he was getting Willock plus some others in his own mind, and the club seemed to say that they all agreed what they were doing. And then he changed his wording to it wasn't possible, which could be a posh way of saying they wouldn't let us have any more players. But he was saying it wasn't possible, it didn't happen. So he's in a funny position, isn't he? Because at the end of the day, he's got a job. He doesn't want to walk. He's made that decision. So he's in a funny position, because it still works for them. And he's got 2 choices: just to come out and say what his side is and walk out the door and give away, resign that contract, or see it out, which is yours. It's got this season to run. So, and if results keep going the way they're going, and we pick up the few points that I feel we might pick up against Man United, people like Spurs, it's not going to be good. You know what I mean? I can see it's rooted down there in that bottom 2 or 3, adrift from the others and needing snookers like before Christmas. So he might not get the choice. You know what I mean? It's clear. What's coming over clear to fans is they're not getting on. He's not Ashley's favourite boy at the minute. So it might be the results push him out the door. But it sounds like he's made his decision to stay. He doesn't want to talk about it. But the press were always going to want to talk about it. So the fans.
Yeah, and I mean, they should talk about it as well.
Yeah,
Steve, shouldn't they? There should.
Yeah.
I mean, there shouldn't be any reason you can't answer that question. Why did you think you could sign more than one player when it was quite clear you'd agreed you were only going to sign one, and that was always the arrangement?
Exactly. The penny's dropped, hasn't it? It's taken him 2 years and a bit, but the penny's finally dropped. What sort of situation that he's in terms of what goes on behind the scenes. Everything that's happened to every manager in the past for the last 14 years, he's suddenly landed in it. He's suddenly, the reality has suddenly hit home. All of these managers right across history, every club, they all think that they can persuade a board to spend money. They all think that they can take this. They can show the right way. They're the football man. They know how to run the football club. They know what's needed on the football pitch. Their persuasion will get them what they want. Their cajoling, their managerial ability, their football knowledge, their brain, everything about them tells them that, yes, we'll be able to convince them in the boardroom. You know what? He's just hit that wall, hasn't he? He's just hit it head on. And he's just been put right in his box. We saw it last week with that, and then we can hear it this week with what he said on here. I just had a quick glance at it. I mean, there's some classic lines. When asked to expand on the policy by the Chronicle with no clear blueprint published for a number of years, Bruce said, "Surely you know. You have just seen the policy with the statement, haven't you?" And Christ, did he not know what the policy was? We all knew what the policy was. We know what's been going on, for goodness sake. So that, if anything, is the enlightening part of it. It's also the stupidity of it all. So, you know what? It's frustrating that for 2 years, people telling him, what will happen to him, telling him how the football club is really run, how they really operate, and he's ignored it. Is it his overconfidence? Is it his just his way? No, it's the way that all these managers are. The dinosaur managers who think they can run the club from top to bottom. That those days have long gone. This is not running like a Sunday League team where you're in charge of everything and you take the washing home and you do that, or you dictate who does the washing. It's not like that anymore. And I think that this will have been a massive eye opener the last week for Steve Bruce.
Yep, I would agree. Junior Turner, good evening. He says, Keith, do you think Steve will walk before a takeover happens? I'm definitely not going anywhere, Junior, mate. Don't worry about that.
He'll have to be quick if he does.
There's more chance of Bruce singing Junior's song than there is of him walking.
I think it's right. But it is a great song. It's a cracking question, Junior. Thanks for the message you sent us today. I think that Bruce won't walk. I think Steve basically got right on the knuckle. He'll know he won't walk out of this job. He's walked out all the rest. But to me, he's lived on borrowed time for 2 years. He's not been the right fella for this job from the off. And he'll get found out very soon, I think. And I think he'll get pushed. I don't think he'll get a chance to walk. If you're mirroring that to the takeover question, I think the takeover. I think that there is activity going on now at the club on the takeover, and I think I think people will buy this club. I'm very confident in that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Billy's question here. He says, "What connects the following: Klein, Kensett, Rowlands, Palmer, and Steve Bruce?" I'm sure we'll have an answer, Billy. They're all stuck in the 80s, maybe. I don't know. Patsy, they're all Patsy. Yeah, well, Patsy Klein, Patsy Kensett, Patsy Rowlands, Patsy Palmer. Very good, well done, Mitch. Well done. Good one, Billy. Good one, Billy. I'm sure Billy's after a regular slot on this.
Oh, he is like.
Mitch, what about you then, Steve?
Well, let's put some flesh on the bones of this. I've been doing a little bit of digging today. Funny enough, two sources, one inside the club and one very close to the club, came with very similar information using similar phrases and words. Bruce was convinced Chowdhury was coming. Bruce didn't find out that the club had cancelled the medical and cancelled the transport until after he'd been briefing the press that the deal was still possible. Apparently, he confronted Charnley. And the result of that conversation was when he took himself off to Portugal for a couple of days. The club didn't know if he was coming back. There was no communication between club and manager during that time when he walked out to Charnley's office and took himself to Portugal. He was only in Portugal for a couple of days. Since he's returned, they've had a number of meetings, and apparently Bruce has returned to the training ground and confided in the playing staff that he believes he has 3 games left, and that they've already written off the Man United game, so that basically makes it Leeds and Watford to save his job. And apparently the playing staff now have a degree of sympathy for the manager, because they're seeing how much he's been hung out to dry. Like, everybody inside the club's been walking around with their heads up the arse for the last 3 years. You know what's coming. We all knew what was coming. They've hung the manager so far out to dry, you know, he must be desiccated. And the thing is, the way he's behaved, because he's behaved as a patsy for the manager, for the owner rather, and he's just tugged the forelock and gone along with it, that sympathy won't extend to the fan base. Not one little bit. He's not helped himself in the way he's behaved. So for him then to have to go and answer questions on this situation, I think that explains a lot of the answers and the non-answers he was given today, because he just doesn't want to talk about it. I think we're probably 1 or 2 games away from a press conference like that one he gave. Was it towards the end of his time at Hull, where he literally just sat there and stared? I think we've got something like that on the way. I don't think his time at Newcastle United is long. But then that begs the question, what do we do? Is it him and the 2 other Steves are out and Graham Jones is in charge? Is Graham Jones a manager, or is he better as a number 2? Because it seems to be he's a coach that's well liked and well loved by a lot of people within the game, and every single player that seems to work with him. The feedback on Jones from the England camp was they wanted to keep him on involved in some way, shape or form. So is he now going to be thrust into the role of manager just because it's the cheapest option? And Bruce has obviously made his decision, and that decision is, I don't have the balls to walk. If you have the balls to go in and face Charnley and then run off to Portugal in the huff to lick your wounds, why don't you have the balls to walk, Steve? Because that's, you know, at the end of the day, you haven't got what you want. You've been hung out to dry. Anybody with a modicum of pride in themselves and their job would just say, oh, sod this for a game of soldiers. I've had 2.5 years of stick. I've done everything they wanted us to. I've taken the flak for them, and F you, because I would.
Yeah, Darren Cowan asking Keith whether you would bring Lampard in with Terry as number 2. I mean, I've seen plenty of people talking about this on social media this week, and some people would love to see maybe a Lampard come to Newcastle and be given an opportunity. You know, John Terry linked as a manager, which I don't think would work at all, and quite rightly, you know, poo-poo by a lot of people. But what's your take on that, Keith? If you know, if we went for something completely, you know, left field like that?
I'd rather have Harry Lampard's wife than Steve Bruce. So, like, asking me a question like that's never going to. He's you know, like you
wouldn't take him, despite. I mean, I know it's a different league altogether, but Gerrard's done well in Scotland with Rangers.
Yeah. But see, the whole thing is I remain convinced that there's proper activity going on, and that the club will get bought in the not too distant future, and the people have their own ideas. And I think what the club are hoping to do is retain Bruce long enough to get that deal through and over the line. And then once he comes in, I mean, anybody with a modicum of football in them is going to look for somebody to invigorate the place, and somebody who's proactive and who's genuinely got ideas. I mean, there's been too many photographs. They're not done by chance. There's too many photographs shot where penalties are being decided and all the players in the huddle and people are talking tactics, and he's just out of it. He stood out of it. So he just seems out of touch with what's going on. And it seems as though his methodology of coaching or managing is an older school than what's needed at the minute. So if that's the case, I think the club are trying to. Well, I think the club, if he's gone to Portugal without their knowledge, he'll just said, well, if he doesn't come back, we'll put Jones in charge. But I don't see the club rushing in a big name like Lampard or Gerrard, you know, weeks before a purchase. That's what that's my personal opinion. I think the club will soldier through with what they've got, and I think anybody buying the club now has got long enough in the season to rescue whatever mess is made at the start of the season, even though them's famous last words. I just think that Steve Bruce, in fairness, everyone I talked to, I spoke to two people this week and know well, says he's a cracking bloke, and he might be, but he's not a cracking manager. He's not a good manager for Newcastle United. And all I want to see is get out of the danger period. I want to see is, get to mid-table while all this donkey shit's going on. But he's not going to get us mid-table. Doesn't matter what you do. And so looking at other managers to come in to replace him is hopeful. And I don't think it's what happens pre-takeover. I think that's what happens when a takeover comes. Because I don't think, Steve, to be fair, I don't think young Lampard is going to take a job based on the fact that the club could be sold at any time.
Yeah, Steve, Mark Byers says 3 games to save his job. 3 games takes us just past September the 29th, which is interesting. I mean, again, it could just be a coincidence. Nick DeMarco has been posting more bizarre tweets with zebra patterns in and all that this week. There is momentum, I guess, growing on people's behalf, but I'm not buying into it. But Steve Bruce, I mean, if he has got 3 games to go, who's going to come in and replace him? Would you go for Martinez, who's worked with Graham Jones before? Eddie Howe's been thrown into the mix again by people, but, who is going to come in? And I still say people would come in short term if a takeover was still in the offing, whether it be 3 weeks or 3 months or, 3 years, you're going to get somebody who will come and take the job.
Yeah, of course there is. There's always somebody who'll take somebody else's job. That's a known fact. That's football for you. Because there are many people out there, excuse me, employed and unemployed, who always think they can do better jobs than somebody else. That's the whole thing, and that's the ego of football. Now, when it comes down to who those people are, we could speculate the cows come home, because all those 3 names that you've mentioned, I think they've been mentioned since the day Bruce got the job, perfectly honest. Eddie Howe, since the day he walked out of Brighton, the Brighton manager, since last season when he started to do really well. Martinez, because of the connection with Graham Jones. And so it goes on, Who it's going to be, I think you can imagine if the takeover doesn't happen, then you've got to remember that then it's going to be in the hands of Ashley. And what sort of person will Ashley go for? Because it's just going to be a stand-in, as you say. Ashley is just treading water till he gets rid of the club. Doubt very much he'll talk to potential people that he's trying to sell it to and say, well, who do you think I should get? Because his bullish nature is, well, I'll appoint who I like, and it's going to be their problem. So that's the way I think he would approach it. You look at it from another perspective, and you think, if somebody comes in and they've got big hopes for the football club and they've got big plans and they're going to do something, would those 3 names that we've mentioned there even come up anywhere near the radar?
Yeah.
There must be dozens and dozens of other people with success rates way beyond those 3 people that have been mentioned. As football fans, do we want to see a manager who has basically managed to get someone promoted into the Premiership? Do we want to see someone who has had the finest squad of players that Belgium has seen in the last 50 years and hasn't managed to get them anywhere near winning a trophy? Because they didn't win anything, they haven't got the final, haven't done much. Do we want a manager who looks like he's doing something and maybe he's won a few trophies in Sweden or somewhere like that, and then has come and has basically got a club with a bit of money behind them who are treading water in the Premier League, and to some people are probably one of the favourites to go down, certainly in the bottom 6 when it comes to the end of the season. So for me, it's like speculating about the takeover, speculating about the manager, speculating about new managers, speculating about new owners. I'll get me book out and I'll just go through a list of people. I'll probably pick my mate Paul. He would do better than any of those names that have been mentioned, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I'll put Keith Patterson as his number 2.
Yeah, Mitch, I mean, it's a bit premature. Bruce is still there. I don't think Bruce will walk because of the compensation that he's entitled to. And I can't see Mike Ashley pulling the trigger unless he has to. I think Bruce has got a lot longer than 3 games, but I'm not doubting your person who's told you this at all. These things that we've heard from you in the past have always been fairly on the money. But I just find it surprising. It'll be interesting to see who comes in. Who would you expect to come in then if that does happen in the next 3 games?
The 3 games thing made me ears prick up because it was said it was by 2 different people.
Yeah,
exactly the same phrase,
Yeah,
and in terms of somebody coming in, it's who if Ashley's still the owner and we've still got the status quo we have, who in their right mind would come and work for it? I think it would only have to be somebody desperate, somebody on the way down, looking for a last chance, or somebody promoted from within, and Jones. And I think we'd probably end up with Jones. In terms of will he last longer than 3 games, my understanding is he agreed a compensation package in January during the middle of that horrendous 20-game run. And that agreement still stands. So a compensation package is already sitting there on the table for him if they decide to pull the trigger. So,
despite how badly he did when he was a stand-in, when he did Luton. I mean, he was horrendous at Luton.
He was. That's what makes me worry. I think he's a fantastic number 2. I think he's a fantastic coach. There's no doubt about that. The amount of good things people in the games talk about him, but is he a manager? And I genuinely don't know, because the statistics at his time at Luton would suggest not. And I know Robert Lee's son's not got many good words to say about that particular time at Luton either.
No.
So it makes you worry.
No, you're right there. As we've only got an hour and a half tonight, we do have a lot of things, as always, to cram in, and slightly more, because obviously we put a request out last week for the day I met. We were basically deluged with those. I've got enough really to last for the full season, but we'll show a couple tonight. Here it is, the day I met. Okay, a big thank you once again to everybody who sent them in. I'm going to start just with a couple of regulars on NUFC Matters who we didn't get on last week, who were kind enough to send us a couple of pictures. Steve Wilkinson, of course, who you'll all know from the Retro Show, shared this one with us, which is fantastic. So John and Steve at the 1998 FA Cup final. Great photo of that, and remember that day well. And then we've got this one. And again, I remember this well because I was actually there. I took Pavel to the BBC Radio Newcastle studios, and Steve was a regular back in the day on the fans panel, the fans forum as they used to call it, where they would get Newcastle and Sunderland fans in on an alternate basis. And Steve Wilkinson hit lucky because Pav went in to talk about his book Pavel as a Geordie, which we brought out at Mojo Rising Publishing a few years ago. And a couple of days later, Pavel was back in his home country and, sadly collapsed and then passed away a few days later. But that's a great photo. And that is the original T-shirt that Pavel's friend has on there. The Pavel is a Geordie T-shirt that Lee Clark actually gave him in the 1990s.
I think that photograph, Steve, was taken on the same day as we did the book launch, wasn't it? In the Irish.
It was.
That was the night of the book launch as well.
It was.
It was a great night. Very great night.
George Mitchell, of course, father of Mitch, has also contributed a couple of photos for this segment this week. George always likes to do things special. And it's not a Newcastle player.
Brilliant.
It's the Queen.
Is that when George met Steve Acey?
So this is George meeting Stephen. No, this is George meeting Queen Elizabeth II. Stand up, Mr. Patterson. It's the Queen. Come on now. But to round it off nicely, he did send us another picture of him meeting the King.
Fantastic.
Oh, brilliant.
Kevin Keegan. So, George, thank you for sharing those photographs. Absolutely brilliant. And there was a little story attached to that one, which meant that Mitch, I think, missed out on missing Kevin on that particular day. Is that right, Mitch?
Aye, but I can't remember it myself.
Yeah, that's right.
To be fair.
Yeah, but great photos as always. Thanks for sending them in, George. And we have got one more. Oh yeah, this one from Steve Wilkinson as well. After a charity event he did for Sir Bobby Robson, there's that one of him and Sir Bobby. It's a great collection there, Steve Wilkinson, by the way. And last but by no means least, thank you to Ryan Million, who says, "This is me a long time ago," and that is David Ginola there. But what an absolutely brilliant photo that is. So keep them coming in. Send them to me at Twitter, and it's at Steve Wraith. The address is below my name down there, and just ping them over to me, and we'll try and get them on. We'll get through a few more next week. Thanks very much.
Just quickly say, Steve, that
when
you're talking about meeting people at the event on Saturday that you held at the live theatre, I met some great fans, some great people, had some great conversation. It was one particular chap who was actually called Steve as well. I just want to say, when you go to an event like that and you meet a guy like Steve and his son, and we're talking about 1974 Cup finals and 1976 Cup finals. We're talking about Supermac, who we're going to hear talking on the stage. And it brings back all these memories of when you were young. And it's superb. Anyone who hasn't been to any of your events, especially when you do the events with past players from bygone age, like when Malcolm's there or the entertainers, it really does focus your mind and takes you back into those days. So I just want to say it was absolutely brilliant to meet Steve and Nick, and to just hear his stories, his what he could remember of the 74 final and the Brendan Foster running around the pitch beforehand and all that. And I think it was a great start to the evening, because then Malcolm comes on and talking about the cup final and stuff like that. So it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And so thanks to Steve for your company and everybody else who I met that night.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. It was a great night. Everybody had a fantastic time. Great. Just a nice, relaxing way to get back into the swing of things. And got a few more coming up whilst we're talking about that. Obviously, in the next few weeks, I know a lot of you have already bought tickets for it. And we have the evening, of course, with Gavin Peacock. Coming up at the Irish Centre, 29th of October. Tickets £15, newcastlelegends.com. Just click on shop to buy your tickets for that event. And the Christmas party, we've done over 100 tickets for that in aid of the food bank. Tickets for that in the shop on newcastlelegends.com as well. And we are also at the Irish Centre going to do an evening with Peter Beardsley, which we will announce now. Tickets are on sale. You can get them from the shop on newcastlelegends.com. And that's another great event down at the Irish Centre, an evening with Peter Beardsley. And I know Peter's a big fan of the show. Also, big shout out to the sponsors. Spider VPN, Google Spider VPN, and they come up at the top of your Google search list for all your internet security. They are the boys to trust. Skipsandbins.com as well, another main sponsor who've been with us for a few months. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Enquiries at skipsandbins.com is the email. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. L&G Family Funeral Directors are still with us as well this month. 0191 389 7245. And Darren Baldwin Funerals. Telephone 0191 478 2730, www.darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. That is the last day they are with us. So big thank you to Darren again for his annual sponsorship, which he does once a year. And qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls and Newcastle. Big thank you to you as always, mate. He is in the chat. And to John at Jab Signature for making all of our flyers. If you want to subscribe to the channel, click on newcastlelegends.com and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your social media, drop into the comments to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also on your podcast providers, iTunes and Spotify and others. If you missed the show live, don't forget tomorrow, Fans Food Bank Matchday Bucket. Newcastle's Fans Food Bank Bucket is up on that website, nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. You can drop in some money virtually, and that helps support the food bank. And you go into the raffle for the watch, which will be drawn at the pool competition when Q-Tech finally get that around to that. John is almost back on his feet, which is great news. He's making a fantastic recovery. So yes, that's got all of that out of the way. Let's look ahead, I guess, to the game tomorrow, lads. What are you expecting, Keith, at Manchester United?
Cricket score. I'm expecting to get butchered. I was talking to one of our ex-players the other day, and he said to me, he said it was Peter Beasley. He said to us that he thought, and I really respect his opinion. He talks a lot of sense. He said that he thought that after an international week, when Man United players are present, and very few of ours are, and then them coming back, he said he was still confident that we'd get a result of some kind. And I was talking to Mitch, because me and him come on first tonight before we went up. And he said, we're daft enough to do that. But I said to Peter and to Mitch, I just don't think it's open hell. I mean, personally, I'd take 3-0 now. Like, I will, like, honestly. Ronaldo, I just think them and the players, the players have got. And I just think, it'd be kind of stuff dreams are made of, but I just don't think we've got the squad, the coaching, or the mentality to do anything against Man United. And I honestly see it being like a 5-0, 5-1 kind of spectacle. And I just, everywhere I think of it, I just cannot see us getting anything out of it. But I pray we do, and it will just make your weekend. But I just think to myself, like, I wouldn't want Ronaldo chasing me with a knife. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like, but the bloke's exceptional. He's one of the best players in the world. And like, Man United are on fire as well. And we're playing there, and we're never getting out. And I just think it's like seeing your mate held down and getting battered. It's heartbreaking, but I don't expect anything. I think we'll get butchered. And if it's less than 4 goals, I think I'll be content.
Okay, Steve, I'm going to hand over you for 5 minutes. As I explained, I've got to go and get my taste before I go to boxing. So, Steve, I'm going to hand over to Steve H for 5 minutes while I wolf this down. But keep on the Man United subject. We still need to get to Toon tipster, and we need to get to Stato. I'll be back.
So you're confident then, Keith?
Steve Hissey, I've just had a great thought. If we've got to knock half an hour off this show, just didn't ring Joe Walker, just didn't let him on, because his sermon, like his pre-speech, is usually about 20 minutes. So I mean, that would sort it out. He'll not be that bothered, because he's not very good at the live.
I'll make a note of that.
He'll be making a note of it now. Can you imagine him sat up there?
If I had control of the board, I would be all right. What's your thoughts on tomorrow?
I'm thinking of buying a catheter and spending the first 30 minutes catheterizing myself, because I think it'll be more comfortable than watching that game of football. I've got a feeling we're absolutely in for a right royal scudding. I can't see anything else. Exactly. Like, when I was talking to Keith before, it's right. We do stupid things. We were talking in the retro show through the week about William McFall getting sacked, and right about 2 weeks before he got the sack, we managed to win at Liverpool, just out of nowhere. It was like sort of the most daft thing we'd done that season.
Yeah, but we did exactly the same after the Hereford defeat, where we went to Old Trafford and won 2-1.
But the problem for me is, one, do I think that's very likely? No. Two, if you listen to the way Bruce was talking about the game and the approach of the side and the approach of the manager to this, the way he was talking about this game, you'd think he was talking about Dulwich Hamlet going to Anfield in the third round of the FA Cup. You wouldn't think he was talking about 2 Premiership teams playing against each other. He talked Man U up. He talks us down like we're some sort of tiny little nothing club. And so if that's the mentality you're starting with in the dressing room, come on, lads, give it a go. Here's our best shot. There's nothing to lose, and they're big, and they've got Ronaldo, and they've got this, and they've got that. I'm sorry, that's just going with a white flag.
Exactly.
You know, and
that's new, is it, Keith? That's nothing new. We've had this for 2 seasons now.
If you just turn, if you went on there, because bear in mind the players are going to watch what he says. He went on there and he says, "Listen, you play Newcastle tomorrow. There's 11 people go on that pitch. My men are up for it, and there's one thing certain: there's any 50-50 balls. I'll be disappointed if we don't win it. So if Ronaldo's coming on here, I think he's going to get a brace through this game. He's going to find 11 men running at him. We're going to kick everything that moves. And then you think, well, I'll have that. But you go on there." And he talks ordinary players into world beaters. He never once says, you know, I wouldn't like to think I was going on the 50-50 one of our players. I wouldn't like to think I was dead set to say the kind of game Wilson's going to give them. You know, and let's see how the defenders cope with Alan St. Maxim. They'd be telling, you know, it might be him who puts a showcase on rather than Ronaldo. They might all go to see the Ronaldo show. They might say the Alan St. Maxim show. Where's that at? Where's his confidence? Where's his gut feel, his belief? Because all I see is a man who's hanging on for a few more wages. That's all I see. You know, I just see a bloke who's going through the motions, and it pisses you off. It just annoys you that we as fans know we're in for a hiding, but the manager is convinced us we're going to get a bigger hiding. And that's where my lack of confidence comes from. They're going down like a team that's going to get beat.
That was actually my biggest problem with the press conference. More so than the other stuff he was talking about, because by lunchtime today, I had most of the information I was talking about before. Yeah. So I'm seeing this press conference and seeing the write-up on it and listening to his comments, and it was more for me about, you know, trudging into Old Trafford already defeated, and that really, really pisses me off.
And I didn't know you had that, Nish. You said when we come on earlier, you said 2 people give you the same information. I didn't know what you were going to say after that. I didn't know what you were going to say because this week you haven't thrown it around the team. Sometimes we do it on WhatsApp with big crap. But I'd had exactly the same 3 games starting with the Man United that he's been given from the club. But the source I've got it from is very credible, so I think what you've got's right. But it doesn't sound like the club just before a takeover, or you're in the realms of doing a takeover. It's not the kind of thing you want to do.
But who knows how our club right now is going to do anything? We're the most dysfunctional thing since the invention of the triangular shaped wheel. It's just impossible. We're just absolutely and utterly dysfunctional. There's not a semblance of a proper football club there, and that's the problem. So who knows what they're going to do? I mean, what's Charlie doing, sitting raking in his bonus, playing bridge? You know, where is his interaction and input here, other than to basically tell Bruce, sorry, we've cancelled the medical and the helicopter. You're not getting anything. Bye-bye. Are you coming back from Portugal? No reply. Where's the leadership there? You know, and that statement, whoever penned that statement, basically was, like we discussed last week, an absolute slap down to the manager. And what a stupid way to go on, having a manager briefing one thing and the club briefing something totally different. And that's all come out in the wash this week. That's exactly what it was. And now he's had an absolute kick in the groin and been told, you know, put up or shut up. And he's obviously gone away, had a couple of days to think about it and decided, well, I'm going to stick it out. And so now we've got somebody who, you question his commitment to the cause tomorrow, and as ever, shit rolls downhill, and you've got to wonder what's going on in the dressing room. If the dressing room are suddenly feeling sorry for the manager, bearing in mind that was a dressing room that was properly split over the manager in the middle of last season, when you had the 2 camps that were basically John Joe Shelby's pro Bruce camp and Matt Ritchie's, you know, get this guy out of here camp. It's ridiculous.
Can you hear Steve Wraith's now from Four going 40 to the dozen on that plate? You can hear that. You can hear all it. He's nearly knocking the pack off the plate. You can hear him scrubbing that down.
Guys, there's some interesting comments there. There's a comment from Kirk there. Says, you can remember every time we won, Keegan would always say something to put the fear of God into the next opponents after the match. That is how early Kev would work on confidence. And then you've got another comment there, going back to boxing. If tomorrow's game was a boxing match, would it be stopped at half time? Possibly earlier. Interesting points. I mean, there's Darren. Bruce will play 10-0-0 as a formation and have 1% of the play. That was going to bring me on to the fact that obviously he announced that the injury that was picked up by Wilson is a little bit more severe than we thought, and so he's out the game for tomorrow. Almiron should be back. Apparently, they've allowed that to happen now. Although you wouldn't be surprised if there was another sort of article come over the hill that FIFA then throw around, and we'd be the unfortunate ones that would end up with the only team that couldn't play our allegedly exempt player. But Wilson, big miss, Keith.
He is, and you know, like, you've got to be a realist in all this. The outlet, you know, if you can get a ball played through, the likes of St. Max and people like that, you can slip a ball through. The likes of Wilson can latch on, get you a goal, and upset the apple cart, even if it's only for a percentage of the game. But when you take him out, you know, I was just thinking there earlier, who would you put in? Who would you put in instead of Wilson? And you start thinking of people like Dwight Gale. He's not interested. He doesn't give a shit about, you know, getting goals at Man United. I don't care what you say. I know people can argue and say all pros, you know, professional and all. That lad's heart hasn't been in Newcastle for 2 years, and you know, like, we haven't got a replacement for Wilson. That's why we hope we could sign one. You know, we hope we could sign one on loan. But there's just nobody in that squad. You know, there's nobody at all that you're going to put on and you're going to say, well, you know, this is the lad who's going to get us some goals today, because I just don't know what the forward line will be. You know, like, Almiron might come back, St. Maximum. What are they going to do against Man United? You know what I mean? I say, we've got, our hope is scoring tomorrow is Alan St. Maximum doing some magic and getting a goal out of nothing. That's our hope. Maybe it's Murphy or somebody like that doing something, but you know, a long range shot from Longstaff if they play him. But I tell you what, you know, like I tell you what, you could just imagine all the fitness. Imagine if had all the players back, you'd probably bang Shelby and Hendrick in the middle against Man United. But it's frightening. No, it's frightening. And I'm not joking. I mean, I love my club, but I wish I'll take 3-0 tomorrow now. And I've just read what Kirk's just said on there. He says Ronaldo will come on that pitch. He'll come on to his last game. He'll absolutely, he'll put a show on. And I just, honestly, it'll be like shoot, like 3 pots in this life.
Exactly. Mitch, I think it would be fair to say that Bruce, Charnley and Ashley were probably the only 3 people on Tyneside that didn't see this coming. An injury to Wilson and we're snookered.
It's such a good job. We've got the plethora of striking options that the manager told we had 2 weeks ago, which again just, you know, stood out as one of the most bizarre statements for a manager with a depleted squad to actually try and convince himself that he had 5 striking options. It's not good enough. It's not good enough for a top flight club. You could see the way he was being treated in the last game. That Wilson's injury was not a good one. He was probably carrying it going into that game, and they've probably thought, oh, well, we might get this game out of him, then we can rest him for the international break, and then let's see what he's like for Man U. Well, that's backfired. Well done, everyone.
But your dad's just said on there, Mitch, your dad's just said, Keith, we're offered Rondon, and we said no. I mean, honestly,
aye, we did.
What a no-brainer. What a no-brainer. You know what I mean? Like,
and the lad wanted to come. The lad wanted to be here.
Yeah, and he's going to make his debut tomorrow, more than likely for Everton.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If there was one man in football you'd have took on a whatever deal to back up Wilson, and we said if Wilson gets injured, we're knackered. Lo and behold, Wilson's injured. And if it was Rondon, you'd just say, well, you know, let's give our best. But it's just, it beggars belief. Who's gonna line up tomorrow? What we're saying, Steve, is if we're going to eat your knife and fork on 40.
I know, I was laughing.
You're going to eat the cutlery, getting some chip on that plate. Like I tell you what, you're a canny pouch, son. But
We didn't hear you licking the plate. You're all right.
I tell you, he's going to come in. He's going to be burping like that when he gets on there. It's
a classic. It's a classic.
Crack on. Back to you, Steve.
No, great stuff. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for chipping in. Okay, look, I heard most of it, lads, in between eating me tea. But yeah, look, I personally think it's exactly the same. I think it's a hiding to nothing tomorrow. You often look for daft bets, etc. But let's listen to what Toon Stato has got to say first, and then go with our Toon tipster, and it gives you more of a flavour for tomorrow's game.
Hello guys. On Saturday, Newcastle will go out for their game number 1000 in the Premier League. The balance so far is slightly negative, 369 wins, 375 losses and 255 draws. At Old Trafford in particular, you all know that our performances have been abysmal in the past 25-26 years, actually more than that. Only 11 out of 78 points in the Premier League. Only one win back in 2013 with that Johan Kabay goal. And all in all, not much to remember. But still, funnily enough, in 5 of the past 8 games, Newcastle took the lead at Old Trafford. And also in the last 4 games, both teams scored. So at least we can expect an entertaining game. It's a debut for Man United for a guy called Ronaldo. Back in 2008, he scored his first ever hat-trick in professional football, and believe it or not, his only hat-trick for Manchester United. Since then, he is the record holder in professional football with 57 hat-tricks. So who knows what can we expect on Saturday?
Yeah, it's doom and gloom as we thought. You can't really put a positive twist on it, and the only hat trick Ronaldo scored for Man U was against Newcastle, wasn't it? So 1000th game though, and those stats are rather damning. But I heard what you said earlier on, lads, about those rare games, and I mean we've seen it in the past. Mirandina, getting that goal in front of the Kop, and Newcastle beating Liverpool, Newcastle beating Man United, of course, after Hereford. Could history repeat itself and Joe Linton get the winner at Old Trafford and spoil the party? Well, let's find out from our good friend Joe Walker, who is, of course, Toon tipster.
Afternoon all, Toon tipster here, back on the bench. I found out by accident that the show had been moved forward this week, and seems as though I'm the only one on this bloody channel who does any work, I couldn't make the game. I'm pleased actually. After Q-Tech revealed my physique to the world this week, I couldn't risk crashing the network with fans and fans and fans asking for more. I'm a bit worried about where he got the picture from, like. I knew there was something I didn't like about him the first time I met him. I've noticed that old Keith's made a bid for the t-shirt. Mind you, with his money, I thought he'd treble that. I feel about as wanted as Newcastle United's transfer budget at the minute. So, onto a game I couldn't be looking forward to any less. And that's despite the return of an absolute legend of the game. Yep, it's going to be absolutely wonderful to see Jeff Hendrick back on the park. So, Man United away. Here we go. Are you ready, Mitch? Manchester United 2-11 to win the game. The draw is 13-2. And if you're fancying the absolute impossible, prices don't get much higher than 14-1 after 3 games of a season. There is one dreamer in our ranks, Mr. Wraith, or is it Miss Stewart? Or is he the Gallagher Pigeon? Or whoever else he's supposed to be this week? Fancied 1-0 with Joe Linton to get the winner. 120 to 1 for you, my mate. Good luck. The only sense I've had out of anyone this week on Twitter was from my mate Andre. He told me that there's a likelihood that both teams will score in this fixture. And if you fancy that, you can get evens. He also said that in 5 of the last 8 games at Old Trafford, Newcastle actually took the lead. If you think that's going to happen, you can get 4 to 1. On to the money makers then. If you fancy over 2.5 goals in the game, you can get 4 to 9. Manchester United 3-0, 7 to 1. 3-1, 11 to 1. 5-0, 20 to 1. And 8-0, Mitch, 150 to 1. Newcastle to sneak at 1-0 at 40 to 1. And if you think we can get a 1-all draw, you can get odds of 14 to 1. On to the main man then, who Sky have been talking about constantly this week, Mr. Ronaldo. For him to score any time in the game, you can get 4 to 11. And if you fancy the hat-trick, you can get 9 to 2. Apparently he's only ever scored 1 before in the Premier League. And yet, you can guess who that was against. You've got to go down as far as 13 to 5 for Callum Wilson to appear on the goal scorers sheets. Very, very doubtful that he'll be playing if he hasn't been ruled out already. And I absolutely hate betting against Newcastle. But Bruno Fernandes is 15 to 4 to score 2 goals or more in the fixture. On to the food bank. Wilson would have been 13 to 5, as I've said, Mr. Hasty. However, if he doesn't start, I've covered it with ASM to score for Newcastle at 11 to 2. And in terms of the Toon tickle, absolutely no luck in the international week, but as I say, I haven't got a clue. So this week, I've looked at the fixtures and I've put a cheeky fiver on every game in the Premier League this weekend to have over 1.5 goals in it. And if you fancy that, for something to do, 10 to 1. Anyway, don't chase your losses. And remember everybody, if you need any quality snooker or pool equipment, Sports Direct will be open this weekend. Love yous. Ta-ra.
Big thanks to Joe and to Andre, as always, for regular segments. And as Joe says, please bet responsibly, don't chase your losses. Okay, less than half an hour to go. We have, obviously, some regular sections to get through. Let's make Keith Patterson laugh. Also known as put Steve Hasty on the screen in numerous photographs. Okay, the first one is somebody sent this in. I'm pretty sure Mitch has seen it, but somebody said that looks like Mitch. It's pretty good, that, actually. I don't know what on earth it's supposed to be. I did put this one on Twitter, actually, the other day, but it was a puddle which actually looked like Alfred Hitchcock, caused a little bit of a titter on Twitter. So it's not quite a lookalike, but lookalike puddle. But yeah, it did look like Alfred Hitchcock. Okay, this one was from Tim, lookalike Brian Turner, nice guy, our Liam. Can you see that similarity? It's not the most complimentary photo of Liam, by the way.
He looks like Bobby Ball.
He does look like Bobby Ball, doesn't he? It wasn't the most complimentary photo, but I can see where you're coming from. And Colin sent us this one. Now that's somebody from the Hair Bear Bunch, isn't it? If I remember right.
Banana splits, isn't it?
Banana splits. Aye, that's right. Banana splits. Yeah, both the same, both roughly the same time. But yeah, that was quite a good one, Colin. Thank you for that. This one was good. Keith Patterson, and is that the baddie out of Thunderbirds?
Yes.
I'm pleased I'm a baddie. That's good.
Yeah, that's it. That is good. This was a belter sent in from somebody who seen me advertising me Freddie Foreman book and said that Joe Walker looks like Freddie Foreman. So that's Ronnie Cray and Freddie Foreman that Joe looks like. Which, I can see the similarities there. Yeah, criminal. Exactly, criminal. This one was sent in by Rocky Toon after seeing Lewis Hamilton dressed in a rather funny pair of shoes. He tended to see, he does look like a little bit like Coco the Clown there with those boots on, etc., and the coat. So yeah, strange photograph, but thank you for that. This one was from Wayne Bennett. He says, not sure if this has already been done, but here is Steve Hasty and Robbie Savage. It always depends on the angle that they get a photo of you, Steve, really, I guess. This one was from Paul Gray. He says, Toon, look alike, Steve, after your white suit admission tonight, it was good to see you, obviously, with hair. George, H.G. Mitchell, and Hasty supporting Billy Ocean in concert. I've just seen it on MTV. Again, brilliant, Paul. You've obviously gone into a hell of a lot of detail. Like you must have been pausing the TV. Andrew Harbert says, here's Keith Patterson hosting the Crystal Maze. Come on, Patters, lock Ashley in one of the games and play us a tune on the harmonica. Thank you for that, Andrew. These two, I'm sure, have circulated before. I've seen that one definitely before, and that one as well. I think it's the same person who was picked out. But yeah, Cheggers is definitely a dead ringer, I think. Now, this one was interesting because Steve Hasty mentioned this earlier on, and this was submitted actually by Nick. There you go, Steve.
That's the man. The two Steves.
So this is Steve, who you were talking to at the Time Theatre last night. Nick submitted it as a lookalike. He's dad.
Which one's supposed to look
brilliant?
Like? Absolutely superb, that. Yeah, thank you for that, Nick. Toon Barmy sent us this one. Sent this a while ago. Not sure if you showed it, but look, it's a Rafa and extra on Scrooge. Yeah, very good. I must have missed that one, mate, but that is a really good one, that. So, thanks for chucking that one in. This one from Kenny Ranson, David Hay, and Yedlin.
Yeah, I can see
pretty
that.
Good.
Yeah. Hairdo, yeah.
Similar hairdo, yeah. Okay, into the nitty gritty. We've got this one. Look alike, Steve Hasty, says Mr. Anderson. What? Marley's Ghost. Marley's Ghost, I think, is brilliant. Yeah, it's up there. This one from Tim. Emmy Lou Harris and Steve Hasty. This one from PG, Lily Savage.
I think people just want him to have a heart attack laughing. I think that's what it is.
But the winner, categorically, this has got to be the winner, lads. It was absolutely superb. From Make It Transparent. Well, you're not wearing this, Steve. It looks like you're to blame for the Taliban insurgents too. That's me. Straight ahead.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
It is a ring of that, like.
It is. Fantastic. Aye, brilliant. Honestly, fantastic. They get better and better, those. It's very difficult to pick winners out in some cases, but that was definitely the winner. Thank you very much to everybody. Keep sending them to me, to Keith, to Steve Hasty, or to Mitch on Twitter. Toon Lookalike. Great stuff. Yeah, some absolute belters, and people do just like to make laugh. Okay, Steve, we're going to go to Tweet of the Week now, mate, which is your segment, and we've picked out some absolute belters this week. Okay, Tweet of the Week, where we tend to scroll through and find some classics, and the first one comes in from somebody we all know quite well.
That's classic. This is brilliant.
You know what? I reckon I could do the next Fab Four in my budgie smugglers and a Barbie crop top with blue hair, pissed out my skull, and face covered in powder like Al Pacino in The Godfather, and still fly under the NUFC Twitter radar at the moment. You probably could.
So true. So true.
And the reply from the Mags was this.
Something like this, Mitch.
That was great.
Dear me.
Fantastic, yeah. Been a hell of a week for poor Kate Stewart on Twitter, but she's took it all in good spirits, luckily, and we've got her back. She's a nice lass and didn't deserve any of that this week. This one, Steve.
Yeah, Alexi, the Man United fan, Red Army 99. Ronaldo's 136 goals off breaking Rooney's record, and it wouldn't be surprised me if he broke it against
Newcastle.
Something about Newcastle United timeline when things are going badly. It's brilliant. I love this one from Lee Girdlestone. He went, new shirt idea. Is it Kate Stewart? And then obviously the person flicks it around and it's a photo of Steve Wraith. I thought it was very good, Lee. Yes, judging by the accusations that have been levelled at me this week of pretending to be a woman. It's never a dull moment on Twitter. This one, Steve.
Yes, I've got no problem with Steve Bruce going on holiday 3 games into the season. It's the fact he's come back.
This is the most.
Absolutely brilliant. And this one.
Yeah, this was from Mac at NUFC. People thinking that a Manc referee will be the reason we lose against Man United this weekend. As if we would have stood a chance even with Robson Green referee and Anton Decker's linesman. Yes, it's Anthony Taylor, isn't it? That well-known Manchester United fan from Altrincham. You know.
Yeah, fantastic. I did like this one. Somebody tagged me in this one. Premier League. Reply with a flag, and we respond with a Premier League defender from that country. And then the scoreboard chipped in with, here's a flag for you, you corrupt bastards. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. They set themselves up for that. This one, Steve.
Yes, Ryan Fraser is injured. Other breaking news.
Exchange that for Callum Wilson now as well, by the way. So you can use either. It'll have the same desired effect. Yeah. I love this one from Andy. When even the Magpies have given up hope, and now we see a magpie smoking 10 Regal king size. Very good. And this one, political one. We do tend to dip into politics every now and then. Prince Philip Albert. Siri, show me pictures of villains from the 1970s Doctor Who programme. And there's our favourite Tories walking along the street. That can't be his son, Steve, is it?
That's
dear me.
Young Reese Mogg, that's the way he dresses him, you know.
Oh my God. That is really, yeah, this is where we're heading, isn't it? I did like this from Nick Clark as well. Funny at 8 had put, we've got a pair of Premier League tickets for NUFC versus Leeds up for grabs on Friday the 17th of September. To enter, retweet this post and follow @fun88ENG. Nick Clark went, second prize, 2 free pairs of tickets. Honestly, Twitter has been funny this week. It really has. I love this one, Steve. This was very simple play on words. What next? Depeche Mode to clamp down on smoking at bus stops after the headline reads "New Order to curb street drinking."
Brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. Got a couple more. Not that one. We've got that one.
Replying to Tom. It almost seems like a minor point, but I'm glad it's been pointed out. St. James's Park desperately needs a makeover and some TLC. The place literally smells of grime. There's been a dead pigeon in the Gallagher rafters for 5 years.
Now, this is something we talked about last week. Now, since then, there's now a Twitter account appeared, the Gallagher pigeon. We then saw something today on Twitter, which is confirmed that the Gallagher pigeon, pictured here, is not the only one. There is actually one in the Leazes. So I expect probably a Leazes Twitter pigeon at some point. But yeah, the dead pigeon. It seems to be a debate, this. 5 years potentially that pigeon carcass has been there. It beggars belief that the ground is being let go to rot and ruin anyway, but to go to rot and ruin, for that length of time, absolutely crazy. Magpies sent us this. Anything to do with you in a previous life? The Wraith of God? No. I categorically say that has absolutely nothing to do with me. And this one, Oh yes, this was a tweet which didn't have a photograph, but he hasn't got any photographs of him with Newcastle United fans. David Billy Gibson. So he says, "Sorry, no photo. I've only got a story. I was walking up the stairs out of Legends, and Steve Watson was walking down them. I said, 'Hey, Steve.' He replied, 'Hey, man,' and that was that."
Brilliant.
Thanks, Billy. Great stuff. Tweet of the week though is this one, Steve.
Yes, Newcastle United's heat map with 445 on me.
Sam Chipperfield is this week's tweet of the week, and I don't think anybody will disagree. That is probably how the heat map will certainly look.
Doesn't need explained.
Definitely not. No time for action replays this week, unfortunately, but we will be going back to that a little bit later on in the season, I guess. We have got prizes for it. Toon Action Replay are going to get winner's prize of £100 or a gift card. So if you send your goals in to us at nufcmatters.com, preferably as MP4s, you recreating a former Newcastle United goal or a current player's goal, whatever you want to do, but there's £100 or a gift voucher up for grabs. So video your goal, could be you doing the Philip Albert goal against Man United, or attempting Shearer's volley against Everton, or Peter Beardsley's dribbling goal against Manchester City. Whatever you want to do, send it in, and the best goal of the season will win £100. So get your entries in. And Troll of the Week, Julie. I would never miss that out, even though I'm only doing 90 minutes today. But here you go. And Carlos Andrew, who didn't bother copying us in, says, "I'll call it straight down the middle. Steve Wright's been using the takeover agenda and controversy purely to promote himself, and people blindly follow him like sheep. He's nothing but a parasite in my eyes." Thanks, Carlos Andrew. But tag us in next time, mate. I do enjoy reading things like that. T-shirt is on my Twitter account, and it has been won by Kenny Ranson. £20 he bid and no other takers. So Kenny, you have won the T-shirt. I have copied you in on a tweet to Steve Hasty. He will notify you how to pay the food bank, and John from QTech will be in touch for your address to post you the T-shirt. But well done, Kenny. I know you've bid for virtually every single T-shirt over the course of the last year, and it's nice to see that you've actually been successful in getting one. And just want to give a quick shout out to the lads at Loaded, who are trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. Loaded Mag, subscribe at youtube.com. Loaded HQ, just search for the lads. We've had some great shows on there. We've all been on there, I think, at some point now as well off here. So got a good relationship with them, as you know, and they often step in as well if I need a holiday at the likes of Daz. And of course, we've got Pete and Chris Hall as well, who come onto the show to do the 5-minute rant. So a big shout out to the guys. Okay, we've only got about 12 minutes left, but we've done all of our regular slots. The 4-keeper thing, a lot of people are asking about that, Keith. I mean, we had no option, did we, really? Darlow's now back in training, starting to look a little bit better than he did by all accounts, according to Steve Bruce. But we didn't really have much choice, did we, as far as that was concerned? I think the only thing that really knocked me about the squad announcement was that we named Callum Wilson twice. I mean, God.
Right. I mean, best not talk about that. But as far as the goalies go, I was surprised when they named the young'un, the youngest one. I thought the news we've had on Dubravka sounds more positive than when I spoke about him. I'm hearing that he'll recover.
Good.
And so that's got to be a massive positive, just for the lad's personal health and his family, but also for the team's chances of staying up. But if you've got Woodman there and you've got Dubravka on his way back. I think Woodman will play tomorrow, but you've got 2 keepers in there, and I think naming 4. I can see why they've done it, but I just don't see. I don't see how our number 2's on his way back. Our number 1 is making progress, and we've got Woodman in there, so I'm a bit surprised at the 4, but then I wasn't surprised because it was rumoured for so long. I think you could put all 4 of them in tomorrow. I think we'll still get beat. Obviously, you could have 4 goalies in there tomorrow. Ronaldo will still get hat-trick. So I was hoping the squad was going to be filled with a couple of loan signings. I hope we were going to get somebody, from Chelsea and maybe Rondon. But it ain't happening. You know what I mean? We just got to make do what we've got. And when you look at it, I don't suppose them 4 goalies are keeping any superstars out. That's the question I got asked. Somebody said to me, if you don't name the 4, Keith, you only name 3, tell us who you're going to put in rather than the 4th goalie. This is our fair comment. So I think it was fair to company. I don't think you're going to do anything with it. But and I think long and hard, I mean, Woodman's only played 3 games for Newcastle, and that's going to face a Man United team tomorrow. I mean, wouldn't it be brilliant? You had an absolute blinder, and did something, kept them out, and we scratched the draw or something. But you've just got to be realistic. You've got to be realistic. And so no, I think that was always going to happen. But the question is, who was going to replace the 4th person if we didn't put that goalie in? I don't think there was anybody.
Yeah, Steve Hasty. I mean, four goalkeepers, as I say, we didn't really have an option, mate. You're on mute, by the way. But yeah, we didn't really have an option, mate, did we? We had to put them in.
No, we had no option at all. I mean, he obviously knows that Dubravka's his number 1 choice. He'd be desperate to get Dubravka back, even if it's in December or the end of November, whatever. That's his hope. That's his wish. We've got big games coming up there. Well, every game's a big game, but it's right. You look at the squad and you look at what's been left out. I think, well, there's nobody being left out. Nobody of quality. That you would have said, there's no. It's not like you've got players that would have qualified for the squad that you've just sidelined. There's no controversy there. There's no Xavier, who they never named. Then you go back to a couple of years ago when they did the same with the lad from Sunderland who went to Nottingham Forest on loan for
Colback.
Yeah, Colback, that's right. Couldn't remember his name there. It shows you what he meant. There's nothing like that. There's nothing controversial. Somebody's literally been, cast to the 4 winds and said, well, you're not really going to be here. We don't want you or anything like that. Because the squad's threadbare in terms of quality. What happens now, of course, is that certain people in that squad have got to start raising their game. It's as simple as that. Certain defenders have got to start raising their game. The team has got to start molding itself very, very quickly into a team. They've got to show the supporters what they can do. They can't ride on the coat strings of the manager and the angst that we've got towards him. It's time for the players to stand up and be counted. They've been named in the squad, are picking up money, are picking up a wage, and now let's see what they can do for themselves between now and January. Because if there is a takeover, some of those players will be playing for a place in the squad from January, and some of them might be in for a massive, massive shock if it happens. So.
Yeah, definitely. Mitch, 4 keepers in the squad. Look, we've all agreed, really, haven't we? It was a necessity. And Wilson, two Wilsons just not being able to fill paperwork in. It's unacceptable at a club of our size.
It's typical Newcastle United at the moment. This is the shambles that we are. I mean, had a couple of players come in on loan, there would have been a decision to make. Do you leave Gillespie out and then hope that Darlow or Dubravka are back reasonably soon and then rely on young Dan Langley as cover, which is sort of big weight on a young keeper's shoulders? Or do you say to Dubravka and Darlow, the one who has the longest recovery times, out the squad till January, and that's it? No discussions with players. Players shouldn't have an input into that. It should be a hard decision. But you're right, in essence, we're not leaving anybody out that is deserving of a squad number and would be a superstar. So that's the frustrating thing. And what also means tomorrow they're already talking about bringing a young 18-year-old down with a squad and what they're going to do, put him on, hang him out to dry. But it shows the threadbare nature of that squad and the gamble that Ashley and Charnley are taking by not allowing a couple of players to come in on loan. Which again goes back to where we started the show about that whole debacle in the statement made and then the press conference today. Well, you You want to see something which is a perfect example of how shoddy everything our club does is that squad announcement. 2 Callum Wilsons, 4 goalkeepers, and a partridge in a bloody pear tree. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe
I think
it.
if you want to add the total mismanagement, let's also talk about the fact that when season tickets get sent out, and you've never, sorry, not season tickets, but match day tickets get sent out for an away game, and what happened to you, Steve, where it gets, despite not asking for it, it gets sent to the wrong place.
Crazy. I mean, to be in a position where I was in a friends and family group 10 years ago, and then ultimately we end up, with that ticket going to somebody who I've not spoken to for 10 years. Absolutely bizarre. And more or less then saying it's my fault. Then when I go into the back of my account to realise that the only friends and family group I'm in is with my dad and my brother. So it is their mistake. Then they try to retract the email. The nuts and bolts of it was that the guy who I know is a trustworthy guy. Obviously, I used to go to the game with him, and he's posted me ticket back. They got it back. They hadn't checked, and it was actually at the club. They says, "Oh, well, we'll post it out now." I went out, "No, leave it there. I'll come and collect it." So I went out and got it. But yeah, it's just, look, I feel sorry for the staff. I don't want to have a pop at the staff. It's just unfortunate, and some of the photos that were doing the rounds on Twitter last week after our show, showing the complete disrepair of bars, the lack of stock in fridges. People had actually taken photographs. I think a journalist, and I mean, people say we're journalists, we're not. We're just four lads who talk about football on a podcast. We've highlighted it. It's up to somebody like Lee Ryder or maybe it's Liam or whatever to do an article about the state of repair. I know Gabby Logan had challenged it and said it's a disgrace last week after fans had started bombarding her with it, but it does need to be addressed. There's no excuse for letting the club die like that. If it's nearly sold, that again is not an excuse. You should still be looking after those customers who are coming in. They've got a right to be treated properly, like we said last week.
Yeah, when you hollow out a club in the way that they've done over the last 13, 14 years, when you run it in the chimneys that they operate, where the decisions get made at the very top and everybody then has to fall in line, what it tends to happen is that people who want to make decisions on certain things don't. They step back from that. They step away from a decision-making process because of fear, because they go, you know what, it's not my responsibility anymore, because we've been told, report it up the line. And if there's nobody who it's supposed to be reporting up the line is doing anything about it, nothing ever happens. And that's the way that Newcastle United, we've talked about for years. That's the way Newcastle United has been operating. And that's what's been highlighted to them. And if the message ever gets to the very top, things do get done. We saw that at fans forum meetings when, a point would be made to Lee Charnley about something. He'd go, I had no idea. I'll look into that. And within a few days, it was rectified. But it's not even getting that far now. And whether it's because it's the hollowed out shell with nobody there and nobody willing to take responsibility, or whether their eyes off the ball, or whether they're concentrating on other aspects of running a football club that really have nothing to do with the customer service, I'm not too sure. But it's a shambles, quite frankly.
It is, and unfortunately, we've reached the end of the show. As I say, I've got to head off to Durham now for a pro boxing do, but I know you guys enjoy doing a live, so it is just really to keep everybody happy out there. And over 350 watching tonight, even at that time, is fantastic. So thanks for your support. The next live show is with me and Mick Lowes on Sunday morning, when we will be doing a post-mortem, I would gather, on Newcastle United's game against Man United. That's 11 o'clock Sunday morning. I'm at Old Trafford tomorrow, so we will be putting out the evening with Tony Bellew from a couple of years ago. Cracking show that was, by the way, and for a good one for you boxing fans out there. I will leave you with John's clue. John last week gave you that clue. You collect all the clues over 4 weeks, and you put them all together, and then there'll be a question. And this is for a whole host of... this is for 2 tickets for the Tottenham Hotspur game. So 126 career goals was the first one. Tonight's clue is this. Roland. So write that clue down, the answer to that clue down. Roland Keep that for next week, and we'll give you the third question then. Great stuff. As always, Keith, Steve Hasty, Mitch, great to join you, lads, and look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, lads.
Cheers. Take care.